Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we will be interviewing Major General Sir William Glasgow. Is it okay if we just call you William? Yes, of course. Okay, let's get right into it. I'm going to start by asking you a few questions about yourself. Please do. Great. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself? Well, I was born on the 6th of June 1876 in Tiaro, near Maryborough in Queensland. I died on the 4th of July 1955 in Brisbane, Queensland. I was awarded a Distinguished Service Order and I fought in the Second Bureau War, the First World War, the Gallipoli Campaign, the Western Front, the Battle of Amiens, the Second Battle of the Somme, the Battle of St. Quentin Canal. I enlisted with the 2nd Light Horse Regiment in 1914. I landed with this unit at Anzac on the 12th of May 1915. I was later appointed commander of the 13th Infantry Brigade. I commanded the 1st Division and went on to become one of the most highly decorated officers of the AIF. So you were pretty important in the First World War. Very kind. But yes, I was fairly important in the First World War. Most of our viewers would be interested to know what was it like during the Gallipoli campaign. Food was a major concern to us Anzac soldiers. There is no denying that the rations issued to the Anzac provided very poor nutrition due to the unvarying diet and processed foods, canned meat, corned bully beef, bacon or machoshi beef stew, hard tack biscuits and watery jam sugar. Condensed milk, rice, cocoa sometimes varied in the diet, but there was a distinct lack of fresh fruit and vegetables for the Anzacs. The poor nutritional content of the British rations contributed to the physical decline of the Anzac and the British troops at Gallipoli. The unappetizing and varied diet affected the soldiers' morale and physiological well-being. It also increased their susceptibility to disease, which spread rapidly during the summer months. Just quite curious to know, what was it like being in the Western Front? Was it difficult? How did you deal with it? I experienced a great deal of hardship while fighting on the Western Front in France and Belgium. There was a lot of life lost. It was terrible. So many dead, and for what? A few kilometres of land. I imagine you've been asked this question before, so I'll be brief. What was it like being in the trenches? The Germans had 4 years to improve their trenches. By 1918, the line was made up of concrete reinforced bunkers, often several stories below ground, with electrical lights, elaborate barracks. The position had been chosen carefully, and they were defended by machine guns, barbed wire, and artillery. The major problem for the soldiers in the trenches was the simple survival. Most hardly score the enemy and spent their days repairing damage from the shells or cave-ins, hauling food, water to the front and carrying wounded men to the rear. The most hideous part of trench warfare was the rats and the dead bodies of soldiers. Rats were everywhere, spreading disease and feeding on the scraps of bodies. In many sectors of the front, the dead were buried near the trenches. Artillery blasts could dig up the bodies, then bury them again. Did anything that you saw in the war lead you to change your perspective of war? The thing that made me change my perspective of war was when my best friend at the time got shot and died from an infection of his wound. That really took me a long time to get over, and I never thought of war the same way again. How did it feel having to send the boys over the wall in the trenches, knowing that most of them would never come back? How did you deal with that? Very hard to deal with. One of the boys asked me if he would ever see his mother again. I had to lie and say yes. That was possibly the hardest thing I've ever had to do. That boy was shot and killed a month later. William, I was just wanting to know, what was it like being in the second battle of the Somme? The mud was the worst. The first time it was chewed up and there was no trees left, and the mud was thigh deep. The second time it was waist deep with poo and wee, because we had nowhere else to go to the toilet. There was also barbed wire in the mud that you could not see because it was buried in the mud unless you stood on it, and then you'd know about it. How did you deal with the mud in the second battle of the Somme? We tried to put planks of wood down in the mud, but they just sunk. We had no change of clothes, so we had to wear what was with us. The only way to wash was a mess tin, which was big enough to hold 2 cups of water. With that, we were expected to make a fire and boil it, have a shave, clean our teeth, have a bath, and wash our clothes. What are your thoughts on war within? I think that war is a terrible thing, and that we should try our very best to never have another war. We must sort out our differences a better way. I just hope that I never have to experience another war like that again. Go back in time, would you still sign up? That's a good question. I think that I would, because I'm proud to fight for my country, even if that means risking my own life, especially to save another.